What's up, familia? Dayspring here with an episode of Power of X-Men to discuss Marvel Move, which is an interactive fitness app that launched on August 30th, which includes workout challenges featuring iconic Marvel characters like Wolverine, Hulk, Thor, and of course, our God Queen Jean Grey. Joining us, you like that?
I do.
Joining us today to discuss the app is a man who needs no introduction. He's a former writer for Wizard Magazine, the host of the This Week in Marvel podcast, as well as VP and creative lead at Marvel. You saw him at the X-Men 60th anniversary panel back in March, as well as San Diego Comic-Con this year. Let's welcome back Ryan Penagos, a.k.a. Agent M.
Woo! Thank you. Happy to be back.
What's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm good. I literally, right before this, I read the script for issue 4 of Gods by Jonathan Hickman. I know it's not an X book, but man, that is some good ass comics. Holy moly.
Oh my god. I mean, I feel Gods. I mean, it was so eagerly anticipated. We got the foreshadowing, of course, at the Hellfire Gala with Magic. How... Wait, can you tell us? It's that good. It's so great.
It's so good. The thing I was worried about it because it's a lot of new stuff, but that's what Jonathan does. He brings so much new, and Valerio's art is gorgeous. So I've only seen the full. I've read the first issue fully once. I'm going to read it again in a little bit, having now read a bunch of the scripts. But it's really good. You could dive into it without knowing anything. Like it does build a lot for us within it without being like, here's an exposition dump. It's just good. It's good. It's very engaging. And it's a great Jonathan Hickman comic.
Well, let me tell you something about Hickman. Let me tell you about Hickman, Agent M. He is such a wonderful writer. I remember I dove into Secret Wars back in 2015, not really having read the Avengers or what was happening. And then when we had the X-Men relaunch back in 2019 with Hoxpox, I felt that was so accessible to new readers. So kind of like pulling on the thread that you just said, which is he has this uncanny ability of being able to tell stories that are very knee deep in the weeds, but also accessible to new readers.
That is the perfect way to describe it. It is if you want it to be knee deep in the weeds, because there's stuff that he's pulling from Marvel history, from his own works, but it's also here's what you need to know on the page with what these characters are doing and what they're saying without force feeding it. It's a really delicate balance that they play in this, and it's exciting. I'm excited for folks to read the first issue and see all the wild stuff there, but as it goes on and the things that they're doing in this book, I love it.
Well, you're keeping him busy because we have Ultimate Invasion and Ultimate Spider-Man that was just announced. And he is just a force of nature, and we're so happy to see him at the forefront. So speaking of Hickman, though, you did an X-Men 60th anniversary panel back in March, and you reunite. Well, you didn't reunite. You united Hickman with Grant Morrison, which is every fan person's out there just going nuts. What was it like to have those two forces of nature on air and talking to them?
So I was talking to my wife about this the other day. For some reason, she asked, who's the meanest comic creator you have ever met? And I was like, I don't know. I try not to interact with anyone who I find mean. I have someone I could name, but it's not worth it. But I was like, and then she's like, all right, well, who's the nicest? Oh, we were talking about Neil Gaiman. Because she had this amazing interaction with Neil Gaiman when she was, when in the 90s, when she went to a book signing of his, and it was around the time of him writing Sandman and Death, The High Cost of Living, and all this stuff. And she just carried that with her. And I was like, yeah, for all intents and purposes, I know Neil is wonderful. And I was thinking, who do I love? I love Jerry Duggan. He's just so sweet and so nice. And I love this person, that. And I stopped and I thought, Grant Morrison. And I said, I've had this, and I didn't know Grant. I'd never met them. And I had this hope in my mind because Grant's one of my all-time favorite writers of everything that they've done. And I was like, Grant was everything I could have hoped for. They were funny and silly and hilarious and brilliant and jovial and welcoming and just just incredible. And I think Jonathan was in that whole situation happy as a pig in slop because he too loves Grant's work. He loves Grant. He probably knows Grant obviously better than I do, if at all. And we were just, he had a grin on his face the whole time. We shared what we shared of the piece, but I think there was a little bit more, just like cutting different things and just us laughing, like sitting there chatting with Grant Morrison and Jonathan Hickman and having jokes and being free form conversation and then Grant dancing and doing his like Cyclops mod dance. Truly one of my favorite memories of 17 years at Marvel.
Well, I have to tell you that energy was incredibly infectious. And for those of us joining at from home, seeing all of you sort of kikiing and having a good time, it was the one of the best ways to celebrate 60 years of the X-Men at Marvel. And
Yeah.
thank you for that because it just put such a smile on all of our faces.
Oh, well, look, my pleasure. Happy that we could do it. Happy that we have these opportunities to celebrate these anniversaries. I mean, we have an Avengers anniversary this year, and then looking into next year, the old Knucklehead turns 50 next year.
Yes, yes, we're
Ooh.
really excited for that.
Yeah, there's always stuff going on. It's
We
good
can't
times.
wait to see what you guys have in store for Wolverine next year. There's a lot that we're excited for. But speaking of a lot that we're excited for, you were also at San Diego Comic-Con. You hosted a
Yeah.
panel, and there may
Mm-hmm.
have been an X-Men 97 clip that was shown, which, okay, Ryan,
Yeah.
the fact that that has not leaked online, and I have searched the bowels of the internet, of Twitter, X, whatever the heck it's called now.
Sure.
I have to tell you, everyone in the room, because I've spoken to people in the room, and like they must have confiscated your phones. They're like, no, they just said, please put your phones down. There was no policing. No one leaked it. No
Yeah.
one.
Well, we did have some policing because we brought out our shield agents as we do in these panels. We have a history of bringing really cool stuff into different panels, and so we'll bring in a couple of shield agents who will truly walk the aisles, who, if we have the lights down, have night vision goggles, because we want to keep the sanctity of the room, right? We want it to be that special for the people who can be there and remain, for them. And also, like there was no intention to put it out. And when I found out we would have that special moment, we would have those incredible creators come up on the dais and share the footage. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then we do the tech check like the day before the convention started or whatever it was, and I just got to like sit in the mostly empty room and watch the footage. And then we watched it again to make sure the audio was good, which I was just like, yes, show it to me again. And it was so that weekend I watched it 3 times, and I've been able to watch that footage again once more internally. And it's so fun and so cool and so creepy and weird. But it just, I have a friend who's a big Cyclops fan. I was like, yo, they do Cyclops so right in this piece, because he's just like, all the X-Men are falling out of the jet. It's been blown up by Sentinels, and then everybody, no one's panicking. They're just like, boom, Rogue's here, Morph turns into Archangel, and Storm's over here, and they're doing all this stuff, and Cyclops is just like, was talking to people, and he like positions himself, and he like starts going down and like shooting down, and then he optic blasts himself to slow down and then lands in that pose. I was like, yo, that is legit.
And because everyone online was going crazy and tweeting, being like, are you there? Are you there? I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, and Cyclops lands and says, to me, my X-Men.
Yes. Yeah.
The chills
Yeah.
I have right now. The
Yeah.
chills. I'm so excited. I'm
I,
so
I
excited.
as well you should be. It's really exciting. I've seen a lot of what they have in store for that. So it's gonna be fantastic.
Well, speaking of fantastic, there is an app you all launched called Marvel Move. And I'm a big runner. I run maybe 5 to 8 miles a day or every other day, depending
Hmm.
on my schedule. I'm always running. And one of the things I always do when I'm running is I'll play a song and I'll project myself into sort of the comic book stories that I've read. So yeah, I always project myself. I project myself into the stories of everything that's happening. But the Marvel Move app, which is incredibly awesome, there are actual stories designated to certain characters, certain teams, and you get to be a part of it. And as you are jogging, walking, running, you unlock more challenges and get more rewards. So tell me, how did the idea of the Marvel Move app come about?
Yeah. So Marvel Move is developed by a company called Six to Start, and they've been doing an app called Zombies Run for probably close to 15 years, 12 years, something like that. And a long time ago, I stumbled upon it because I love zombies, and I wanted to. My wife's a big runner, and I wanted to get into it a little bit. And they had a 5K training plan, so I signed up for Zombies Run and I checked it out and I did their 5K training plan, which helped me actually get into running, and then from 5K to 10K to regular running to half marathons and all that stuff. And it is a very similar thing. It's audio storytelling with this big robust world, and you are inserted into it, and the world sort of unfolds around you as you run and things happen. In the case of Zombies Run, it's you're being chased by zombies in a post-apocalyptic world, and dealing with all that. And as I was a fan of that, I was like, this is great. We should do this for Marvel. So many years ago, I was like, we should do this. We should try to get this together. I had some conversations, and it just didn't work out at the time. But about 2 or 3 years ago, uh, people also had that brilliant idea again, and put everything together and actually got us signed up to do a Marvel project. It was originally called Marvel Speed. I have my first documents about it were Marvel Speed, and I was asked to come on as the creative lead for it on the Marvel side, and which is great because I had experience with the platform, as it were, and I know a couple things about Marvel, and so I we just started building out what it could be. I have early docs of like, oh well, you'll shield agent, and there's like a helicarrier thing, and all kinds of ideas. And from there, we just started coming together, and there's really brilliant people at Six to Start who make this a reality. Matt Wateska and Adrian Hahn and Louise Richardson and Jen and the whole team doing excellent work to build this. And I'm just there throwing in like uh how about this Marvel reference? How about this thing? Let's make sure that this makes sense. And oh, this didn't happen. It's like little things here and there that make it a little bit more Marvel, but it's a lot of fun.
How was Six to Start when you reached out to them and you were like, we want to try to take what you did with zombies and create something new for Marvel? I mean, they must have just been fanboying out when they heard from you guys.
Yeah, back in it's truly been a long time. It's probably 10 years
Oh,
since
wow.
since I had that initial reach out, and whatever didn't work out. And that was probably, you know, I wasn't I didn't have all the right pieces in play or the people in play. And that's fine because I think they really iterated on their platform and really built out the capabilities and their expertise to where it is now, which is incredible. That I should say that Marvel Move is part of their ZRX app,
Yep.
or ZRX as they say, because they are all in the UK and Scotland and up there. Um, and so their ZRX platform hosts Marvel Move within it, and they're just like constantly working on things and building stuff. And then they are Marvel fans. Like that's part of the great thing. Matt, who I mentioned, is the writer of our Hulk series, and he's just a big Marvel nerd. And it's like, I toss him a lot of references. And have you read this book? How about this thing? And how's that? And then, it's always fun. But yeah, it's so yeah, they're very easy to work with because they understand Marvel in the most important intrinsic ways.
Well, as someone who's been using the app, them understanding Marvel is extremely evident. But I wanted to circle back on how you initially came to them probably like a decade ago and it didn't work out. And I will tell you, I think it's fortuitous that the app has launched now because I was just in a meeting with one of my clients. We're doing a benefit for Heart Share St. Vincent. And one of our programs is dealing with kids in the foster system and getting them motivated to go out and work out, to run, to engage in physical activity. And it's because now we understand the correlation between mental health issues and
Yeah.
physical activities. And that's a conversation that I feel has been happening at the forefront only these last few years. So again, it's fortuitous that you're launching it now, especially going into the fall, and reminding people that go out there, get interactive, and make sure you're using your body, because it's not, you're not only going to have a good time, but you're also bettering yourself physically and mentally.
Yeah, I don't know what I would be if I couldn't have the physical activity that I have. You'd find other ways to do it, but it's really important for me. Feeling better physically is wonderful, but after a good workout, a good run, a good jaunt on the Peloton for me, it's like, or this morning, I had limited time, but doing 10 minutes of yoga is so
Love
crucial
yoga.
for me to get moving. So and get started with my day. So I take that belief in sort of what we do, and I tell the team a lot, like, hey, I love it. The story's great, but we got to make sure we're still reminding people that they are moving in these stories. We literally had that conversation this morning in a great meeting, and yeah, so it's good.
It's I'm thinking of the part of the story for the X-Men where Jean's like, come on, you only have 1 more mile or one kilometer left to go. Let's do this. And it's really interesting. You're using these Marvel characters to motivate the user to go out there to run and be physical, which is utterly brilliant.
Yeah, and kudos to Teenie Howard, the writer of our X-Men
Oh,
series. I emailed Teenie early on, um, because I love Teenie. I think she's a great writer. She knows X-Men, and amazingly enough, she had actually also had the experience I had. She was a Zombies Run user, and
yes.
had done it, and so she understood the way it works, because writing a script for this is different from writing a script for movies or television or for video games or for comics. It's a very different thing, because we have scenes, but we also have things that sort of, you have to understand who the listener is, and what part they play, and what they need to know, what they can understand, all the audio cues, and also like the fact that, yes, you have to keep that movement aspect continuous throughout, whether it's, usually the episodes will probably be like 16 to 25 minutes of our audio within them.
Yeah, so Teenie Howard is writing the X-Men story, and was it as easy as just sending her an email, just to get her to come on board? You're like, hey, Teenie, we're launching this app, and she's like, yes, I'm already familiar with them, and she just like dove right in.
Pretty much, yeah. No, she's like, she and I have been friends for a while, so it was an easy sell. I told her what we're doing, and she was like, yeah, I love this, and so we brought her on. We had early story meetings, and so she was the first Marvel writer that we brought in. We've had a couple more and a couple unannounced, that we're working with, and it was easy. It's also, it's been almost a little bit tougher getting our artists, because I've also been trying to have us hire Marvel artists and great artists to do the supporting art. So finding the right artists to do our art, and we're on Zoom together, and you've got the great initial promo piece that we had made by artist Torrin Clark. And so, like, just
Yeah.
finding a time to get into Torrin's schedule to
Yeah.
do this was amazing, and I love him to pieces to begin with, and I love his work. So having him there, and then for for our X-Men story, I wanted something that felt superhero-y. So when you go into the app, when you see our social post for the X-Men, the art is by Emma Lupacino with colors by Dave McKeag. So Emma has this just incredible superhero vibe to her work. So it's kind of a wonderful way to merge all this together.
I think wonderful way of merging everything together is a perfect way of describing the experience of the app. And it's funny because I didn't know Teenie Howard had written the story, but when I was jogging, I was like, this writing feels familiar. And
Yeah.
And I have in my notes here, of course, it's Teenie Howard because she is brilliant at world building and immersing the reader into that
Mm-hmm.
universe. Because Otherworld is a very difficult sell for just a casual reader. But when you read Otherworld as written by Teenie Howard, you feel so immersed in that world building. And I think Howard really thrives in those nuts and bolts of dialogue and making the reader, or in this case, the user, feel like they are there in the moment. And you see it at the beginning. I don't want to give spoilers for the stories, but in the beginning of the story with Orcus, there is an explosion and you're sort of disoriented and you hear Jean's voice and you're interacting with Wolverine and it's ironclad as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I appreciate that. That's what we were hoping for. The interesting thing is we have a strange balance we have to find with Marvel Move because we want to bring in all the Marvel Comics readers who know the worlds really well, know the characters really well, but we also want to bring in the folks who know the MCU only, or folks who have only seen a couple things, who know the characters peripherally, people who are just into fitness and want something different to sort of like go along with their walk or their run or their treadmill or whatever it is. And so there's a fine balance for us to make sure that these are accessible. And I think Teeny in particular, this our X-Men story, which is called Age of Orcus, does such a cool job because it builds off the foundation of Krakoa, which she helped build in the X office. And so she knows that so well. But then we're not tied to continuity. We're not tied to the comic book continuity. We could do whatever we want. It's each story I almost look at as its own universe. Sometimes we'll have characters who and actors who cross from one to the other, but we don't have to worry about, oh, we did this thing in this story, so we have to reflect it. As long as we're staying within our own continuity of that story, we're good. And so for Age of Orcus, it was just like, okay, we're going to do this X-Men story with Krakoa, knowing, and we've been working on this for a long time, and knowing where we are and where we're going with all things X. It's like, doesn't matter. We're having our Krakoa, we're having our cake and eating it too. But Teeny also wanted to lean into some of the vibe of the X-Men 90s animated series. And so you hear that a lot, particularly with our Storm, with Beast,
Oh
with
yeah.
Jean, and with Scott, with there's a tone to the personalities that sort of, I think, does such a great job of merging Krakoa and the 90s X-Men in this way, which makes me very happy because those are two of my favorite things.
I listen, we are on the same page. I love the voice for Jean. I love your voice casting. I responded well to Hank, which was which I was like, I believe he has a line in there where he's here like, I'm gonna bet my whiskers. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, when I've got the first script and it was like, go it lean in to Beast being the, like, author quoting, hanging upside down, big word Beast.
Lovable, quirky scientist.
Yeah, as much as and I do love the horror side of Beast we've had during the Krakoa.
Oh
I also
yeah.
thought that's not what we're doing here. Where we
No.
can have the bouncing blue beast for our story here.
But as a fan of the 90s X-Men animated series, it must have been such a pleasure listening to these characters being voiced by these actors because they do a great job. And listen, the family at home knows that I am a crazy Jean Grey stan.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, seal of approval on the actor we
Yes.
have with Jean Grey captures the strength, the compassionate, the vulnerability of her as a character, and that is awesome casting that you guys did.
Thanks. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think we got through a lot of different auditions and we went through a lot of voices, and like sometimes folks will come in and then I'm like, this is good, this works, I want them to be this way or that way. But with Jean, Kim Miller is our Jean Grey, and I was like, as soon as I heard her the first time, I was like, yes, she is perfection for Jean.
Kim Miller, we love you so much. Thank you for embodying our God queen
I,
so well. It's not easy.
yeah, I was thinking about being a fan of Gene, probably not on your level, but of Gene fans. There's a moment in one of the episodes where initially it was written and like Gene has like all this. She's going through this thing and it's really intense, and she like is like winded and down a bit. And Scott's like, Scott's like, oh, Gene, let me help you. And she's like, oh, thank you. And I was like, no, man, like Gene can do all of this herself. This Gene can take on all of this. She's done so much more. Yes, she appreciates the love and support of her family, but like she's fine. She's just like she's got this. And so like letting Kim get into that little bit of extremely like she's freaking Jean Grey. So it's very important that we our Jean is as powerful as she is. Also there's the radio mode. She is like in the quote unquote in the booth of the radio station,
Mm-hmm.
which I find delightful.
So walk us through the different features that the
Yeah.
experience has.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of stories. We launched with Thor and Loki's
Mm-hmm.
story, with Hulk, with X-Men. And so Hulk and X-Men are full audio storytelling experiences. You go and you turn on the app, you pick your episode, and you determine if you want to run a distance or run a length of time, whatever it is. You can have chases in the X-Men. There are Sentinels chasing you. In Hulk can chase you at times, which is really fun, really intense. And you listen to our story, and then a scene will end, and your music will sort of come up. If you're on iPhone, your music is kind of always there. If you're on Android, your music like goes away while our story plays. It's just the way those platforms handle audio. But the idea is like you'll get Wolverine say "Move it, bub" or whatever it is.
Okay, that's perfect Wolverine, by the way.
Like,
Sidebar.
thank you. I've been listening to our actors a lot over the last year, and so you get that movement, and then your music kicks in, and then it comes back, and you're following along as whatever the journey may be. So that's the basic thing. Now, the radio mode is something I've always loved in Zombies Run, because it is, say you finish a run, an episode, and you still want to keep moving, you're still running, or maybe you're on a cooldown or whatever it is, you can keep going without going to the next episode if you have radio mode turned on. And it is sort of the way I look at it as is a backup story in a comic book. It is bonus material that builds out the world but is not impactful on the overall narrative. And for X-Men, the radio mode is literally a radio station on Krakoa hosted by Nightcrawler and Jubilee.
Brilliant. So
I
brilliant. And the actors who portray Jubilee and Nightcrawler, their chemistry, you feel it. You feel it.
Yeah, our director for X-Men is this woman named Ella, and Ella Watts, and she's a gigantic X-Men fan.
Oh, you can
Just
tell.
like,
100%.
and she's one of like, I am constantly just saying, because I watch her auditions and the notes she gives, and sometimes the performances, I'm just like, you're the best. I adore you. I adore everything you do, and you have such a beautiful handle on all this. So Ella is so good, and so she was so excited. I remember she was like, I can't wait for you to listen to our Nightcrawler, and it just so good. And like, there's one of them has Jubilee and Nightcrawler doing charades, and it just breaks down into Jubilee and Jean cracking up because Nightcrawler does his charades and his animal noises in German, and it's just bonkers. It's a lot of fun.
So, what do you think makes this app special versus all the other wonderful apps you have worked on? What is it about this app that that you love so much that you think really sets itself apart?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. It's hard because I don't. I just feel like we're putting a lot of love and care, and like I am very, I don't want to say pedantic about my notes and stuff, but I'm very particular. I am a Marvel fan of 35 years. I've been reading comics since I was a wee little babe, and I love this so much. But I also know that like we have to tell good stories, we have to be entertaining. So I try really hard to keep all that in mind, and I think everyone at Six to Start feels the same way, and they're rising to those occasions. And when I give a tiny little note that says, "Can we have this person say this thing just a little bit differently?" They'll make sure that one, that it makes sense, but two, that like that we get it right. And so I think yeah, we're putting a lot of love and care into this and doing some cool stuff. And this is not something we have at Marvel. We've had audio podcasts, and I think those are really cool, but they're very dramatic, and you are set outside. You're just watching, right? Or you're just listening. In Marvel Move, you are you're the protagonist. In X-Men Age of Orcus, you are a character in that first episode who discovers that they're a mutant, like horribly, nightmarishly, when Sentinels are tracking you and you're running away from them side by side with Wolverine. And spoiler alert, Gambit gets killed in the first episode. I win. And so like you find that out in our Thor and Loki series. You are a mortal who gets brought into this giant realm spanning adventure and becomes a hero. In Daredevil, you are like, in our Daredevil story, you're going to be like someone who's going to a college, and you find out, Matt Murdock is a professor, and like it unravels into this wild story. We just started this week our Marvels story featuring Kamala and Carol and Monica, which is a lot of fun. We were able to throw in mentions of like Hulkling and Wiccan and their marriage. We've got Kree and Skrull. We've got Flurkins everywhere. It's literally called Flurkin Race, where you are a junior shield agent that bumps into Kamala Khan at a superhero convention because she's chasing after a runaway cat, because she's hosting the Marvel Meow adoption booth for charity at this convention.
Up. That is perfect. That is perfect.
And we brought in Sandra Saad, who voiced Kamala in Marvel's The Avengers game, and does Kamala in the Spidey and His Amazing Friends cartoon. And she's just wonderful. And there's moments where she's like fangirling, like Kamala is fangirling. That is so true Kamala, but also like she's big superhero stuff. We've got like a guest appearance from Thor. We've got really gnarly, cool Skrull bad guys in this, and Kree bad guys, and it's a lot of fun. It's a 3-episode thing. There's a 10K race at the end of it, so I want you to do that race. Are you going to be at New York Comic Con?
I am going to be at New York Comic Con.
Ooh, very good. Because if you finish all three runs for the Marvel's Flurkin race, and bring your device to us at the Marvel booth during certain times, we have a pin, an exclusive pin, with art by Diwali, who is an amazing poster artist. He's done a bunch of variant covers for Marvel. He did a great It's Jeff variant cover, and he redesigned the Spider-Man India costume recently. And I've been friends with Diwali for years, so I was super happy to bring him on. So we have a pin that you get for free just for doing the race and coming to the booth. You get a race bib.
Race bib, yes.
We have race bibs printed up, and a certificate of completion from the Marvel saying you did this race, thank you so much, and it's part of the story. And it's
I love how interactive this is, and as a runner and as a Marvel stan, I am just going crazy right now. I'm going to be blowing you guys up at the Marvel booth at New York Comic Con in just, oh my god, like 2 weeks.
I know.
I can't believe it's mind-blowing to me that we're ready.
We're announcing at least one thing, if not multiple things, at our Marvel Move panel on Sunday at New York Comic Con. So it's going to be a good time.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm also a crazy Scarlet Witch stan, and we have Wanda and Doctor Strange coming up. What can you tease with us about that story and what people can expect?
Yeah, that one is super cool. It's a very trippy, weird story. It's I believe this is also written by Kim Richardson, who is doing our Marvel story, who's written them, and she's just this incredible writer. And the idea is that in this one, you are a person, you're someone who is out on a run, and something happens to you and you get sucked into, you like basically fall asleep, and Doctor Strange brings you back to the sanctum because he detects something is going on, and you're in a dream world. You're
Mhm.
in your own dreams, and it's weird and trippy, and like it opens up with a like tour guide of a museum, but it's like there's like a mention of Francis Castiglione over here as one of the knights of the round. Like that doesn't track. And like there's a lot of little fun, weird stuff that's happening. And you eventually Doctor Strange is like trying to break in. And so we've got this Doctor Strange, and then he needs help. So who better to help them than the Scarlet Witch? And so she comes in by I believe the second episode.
That's man, I cannot wait for that. So
Yeah.
for folks at home who don't know how to get the app, it's as easy as just going onto the App Store, downloading, and subscribing.
Yeah, so ZR, if you look up Marvel Move or you look up ZRX, just those letters, you'll find it. You can get a 7-day free trial
Yeah.
for Marvel Move. Super easy to check it out. And then, from there, we have a whole bunch of other stuff. We have a subscription, it's like a year or 2 years or whatever it is. If you think about it, how much it costs over the course of months or how often you
That
go
easy for
out
me, Lee.
running and walking, it's really great, and we're doing, it's about 3 episodes per week, that we 2 to 3 episodes per week of new content right now. We do an X-Men episode or a Hulk episode. I think right now, because of the Marvels, we're putting the Marvels out on Mondays. But the Thor and Loki series is massive because it's a 5K trainer. The thing that sort of they really excel at. We're doing a Marvel version, and it is so much fun. I love it so much. And I was like, at one point, I was like, can we turn this into also just a version for people who don't need the training?
Yeah.
And so we ended up saying, yes, this is really good. Let's turn this 24-part series into just a regular running series. So I really hope you check that one out because I think you'll fall in love with our Loki. There's a lot of really fun, we have Morgan Le Fay in the series, and I will tell you, it is the sexiest, scariest Morgan Le Fay ever. She is like incredible. And
Stop it. Yes.
little spoiler, at one point, you find out that Loki and Morgan have had a relationship that did not go well, and she does not like him. And at the beginning of an episode, you're talking about, all right, Loki will be here soon, and then you just hear, and Loki, she yeets Loki from her like estate to like hundreds of yards and just sends him flying and crashing down at your feet. We're having fun. We're having a lot of fun. It's really good. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of stories. We've got Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch coming up for spooky season, which is perfect timing. That's going to be coming soon. The Marvels will be wrapped in time for New York Comic Con. We're announcing some stuff, some things coming up. We have another writer of mutant renown coming on to do a really fun story. I keep trying to be like, when can I talk about this? When can I talk about this? When can I talk about this? Hopefully at New York Comic Con I can share a little bit more about it. But I brought this writer in very specifically with a bunch of ideas. And yeah, we've got plenty more to come.
Well, I don't want to probe on who the writer is, but where can folks who are attending New York Comic Con find all these announcements for Marvel Movie? Are you guys having a panel? I haven't looked at the panel schedule yet. You guys having a panel? Is it just going to be part of another panel? Where at?
Yep, we have a Marvel Move panel Sunday, October 15th at 10:30 a.m. It's an early panel, but that was the only slot that they had left. But I'm trying to get us to print up some free codes for anybody who comes to the panel. Like everybody who comes, you get a couple months free of Marvel Move. We're gonna have Sandra Saad there, who is the voice of Kamala. She's gonna be there, which is incredible. She's so great. Megan Fitzpatrick, who is a wonderful writer, has not done Marvel comic stuff as far as I know, but she did a really great Robin series for DC and some other stuff. She's got a story that we're working on, and I think we're going to announce that there. We better, because I'm talking about it. And
That's it.
yeah, we've got some other stuff percolating. And then yeah, at the Marvel booth, I believe at 1 p.m. every day we're gonna have a section. So if you've done the Marvel stuff, or even if you just have the app, come show it to us. We'll give you all the cool stuff and make sure everybody experiences it.
All right. Well, HasLab had a small announcement recently, which
Small.
is small. Get it? God, I'm sorry. This is what
Nah,
happens when I've had like 4 cups of coffee. Giant Man is our
yeah,
newest HasLab.
I
Oh,
know.
oh my God. How great does when did you find out that we were gonna get Giant Man and the technology behind it? It's so I mean,
I
literally,
know.
our mouths just dropped.
I know. I think I asked Jesse Falcon, who's a very dear friend of mine. He's on the Marvel team that he helped create Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
His office used to be right outside mine years ago, and we would goof around and be silly together. And I think I asked Jesse 6 months ago, like, "What's our HasLab this year? Give me the deets." And so I was like, "All right, cool." But then seeing it up close and seeing the really intense detail. There's like 29 points of articulation in the hands themselves, like
Gosh.
each.
The most
It just,
articulation any Legends figure has ever had.
yeah, it's like 90 some odd points or something
Yeah.
like that. He's big, he's cool. We were gonna have Giant Man, I believe, folks to check out at New York Comic Con. So it's yeah, it's rad. I hope it gets funded. These things, I believe me, I know how much it costs to do these, but like thinking about the cost of a Marvel Legend, and that's like he's big. He's 24 inches tall.
We've talked about this on the podcast. 2 Legends, the 2 packs of Legends are $50. So you can get a HasLab for 200,
Yeah.
199. And
Mm-hmm.
it's beautifully done. New technology for the eyes, which we know we
Yeah.
went through a period with Legends where the eyes and the deco weren't that great. But now this is new technology where it looks like he's looking down. You can swap out the faceplates. This $200, as far as I'm concerned, is a steal.
Yeah.
And he looks so good. And I think you guys will get funded.
I
We've
hope.
tracked the Sentinel and Galactus before, and we know that fans come through when it's absolutely epic like this figure.
Yeah, and I think is more like, especially if people can see it up close and like get a sense of what it looks like in person,
Yeah.
it's gonna be really cool.
So there was also a little announcement for the X-Men in January. We're getting is it the end of the Krakoan age? It's the final battle. What can you tease about the X-Men come January?
This is hard because we're still a little bit away from getting to that point.
Mhm.
I talked to Jerry a little bit about this, Jerry Duggan. I haven't talked to Kieran about it because Jerry is doing Fall of the House of X, and Kieran is writing Rise of the Powers of
Powers of
10,
10.
or Rise of the Powers of X. I haven't actually asked them, is it 10 again or is it
The
X?
10, yeah, I say 10, Rise of the
Right.
Powers of 10, but whatever it is, yes.
Yeah. And then, I think it's Lucas Wernick and
Yeah.
RB Silva. It's just
Oh,
beautiful.
you're being so kind to us. Hopefully it's
Uh,
not another slaughter,
uh,
but in terms of the creative team, you guys have been
yeah.
so kind to us because we're ready for it.
Yeah. It's look, this has been an incredible time. I think Cone Age is, if not my favorite, one of my favorites. It's hard because recency bias gives us certain things, but it's been so fresh and fun and so many incredible things, and seeing characters we haven't seen in a long time. And I did yell at Jerry. I said, Jerry, last thing you do for whenever this is done, bring back Sugar Man. I need Sugar Man.
Yes.
And they're like, I've talked to Jordan, and Jordan was like, we killed him right before the Krakoan era. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Everything can be undone. There's a story reason to do whatever we want. And like if and when we do another X-Men story for Marvel Move, I may have to put Sugar Man in just to spite everyone else.
Well, if you're putting Sugarman in, you have to put in Nate Gray. You got to
Oh,
put Nate Gray
love me
in.
some X-Men.
And speaking of the House of Gray, why did you do that to us with our God Queen, Jean Grey, at the Hellfire Gala? Not only just backstabbed by Moira, but seeing her dead as a skeleton there. I mean, you knew us crazy Jean stands, we were going to go insane seeing that. And we have.
Yeah.
And I apologize for the rants that you've been
No,
subjected to.
You know what, that's the thing that we always think about, at least I always think about here, is whenever our fans get upset, it's because it comes from a place of love
Yeah.
and dedication and like deep emotional connection. That's what we need. That's what we want. If we don't have these emotional connections to these characters, we're not going to keep reading the stories. We're not going to keep, we're not going to get angry about these things, because like, why do we care? So the fact that we are upset about certain things, makes sense. But stories have a lot of road to fully like unfold, and what happens at the beginning or the middle is not necessarily where we'll be at the end. Can't tell you where we'll be at the end. I know where we're going. I read Jean Grey 2
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah. It came out today. It just dropped
Oh, it
today.
came out today. Okay. I read things in very strange times. So 2 is great. And I like the sort of like way this is structured and sort of leading us down this path. And I think when people see how it all shakes out, they're going to be, I won't tell people what they're going to be. I'll let them be it. I will give no more hints.
Jean Grey stands have a plethora of emotions. So
Yes.
we are excited. We're all tuning in every month when those issues drop.
Yeah.
Any apps, anything on the side that you can tease, or you're just generally you've read and you can't obviously spoil anything that you're most excited about in the coming months?
Yeah. I think there's some really cool plans for 2024 that from the Marvel comic side, from the Marvel Studio side. Um, like we're in a good place to like release cool things and storytelling stuff. I think Jed McKay is doing some really great work on the comic side, and
I love
seeing,
Jed McKay so
yeah,
much. We've had him on the podcast before. I've seen him at New York Comic Con. What a great, you get so much from a McKay issue. There's so
yeah.
much in just one issue. He gives you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We
No
love you, Jed.
apologies needed. Yeah, Jed is just so good and firing on all cylinders, and
It's like a
like
Teeny Howard issue. You get so much in
so
just one issue.
much.
Anyways,
Yeah.
continue.
And there's some really cool stuff happening there. There's the way we'll end the year in the comics, and then go forward into some bigger stories and various different things, and all the different sort of arms of Marvel Comics, whether it's Spidey stuff, there's really cool things there. Symbiote stuff, which I'm not generally just a giant symbiote guy, but I think there's some cool plans in the works there. The Avengers and the hero stuff, the X stuff, as we get, into what we were just talking about, and then into the middle of the year, man, it's really great. And yeah, I feel like the Watcher at times. Sitting back with a big old grin.
All right, Familia, Marvel Move. You go to the App Store, download ZRX, the ZRX app, and you subscribe. You get a 7-day free trial. Make sure you hit up Ryan and the entire Marvel team at New York Comic Con. Show them the app. You'll get some goodies. If you completed challenges, you'll get even more goodies. And we have the panel bright and early on Sunday. Ryan, where can folks hit you up on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me at Agent M on Twitter, on Instagram, Threads. I'm on Blue Sky, same thing. I'm in the places wherever I can find the time and remember to post all that stuff. And I also host the This Week in Marvel podcast, at least every Friday. We have yesterday, as of recording yesterday, I chatted with Natalie Holt, who's a composer for Marvel Studios Loki. So good, talking about the music of this season, and I will hopefully be talking to Jonathan Hickman in like 2 hours.
That's insane. I'm like, tell Hickman we say hi.
John, say hi.
Oh gosh, no, he's incredible. All right, Familia, we'll see you later.